The hall was larger than any human building Rylan had ever seen. Towering walls stretched upward, disappearing into shadows that seemed to shimmer with their own light. The floor was smooth and dark, reflecting the faint glow of floating crystal orbs that hovered silently above. As Rylan stepped forward, the soft hum of energy vibrated through the air, pressing against his chest like a gentle but unrelenting wave. He had expected grandeur, but nothing could have prepared him for this. The Zalarians, the alien race he had come to meet, had built wonders that made Earth's largest cities feel like toys. Rylan's escort moved swiftly, yet silently, flanking him on both sides. They were tall and slender, with translucent skin that glimmered faintly. Their limbs seemed elongated, and their eyes, large, almond-shaped, and entirely black, followed him without blinking. Every step he took felt deliberate, and he could sense that these beings measured every movement, every breath. The soldiers were not hostile, but their presence was a constant reminder. One mistake could mean instant death or, perhaps worse, dishonor. The hall opened into a vast chamber where dozens of Zalarian nobles had already gathered. They were positioned like statues, standing perfectly still in concentric circles, all eyes fixed on the throne at the far end. Rylan's human instincts screamed caution. He had studied alien customs for months, memorized protocols, but nothing could guarantee that a human could survive their first encounter without offending them. The whispers of the other humans in his fleet echoed in his mind. Don't move too fast. Don't speak too soon. Don't look directly into her eyes. Yet curiosity pried at him, urging him to see more. The queen appeared at the top of a raised platform, and the room fell into complete silence. Her presence alone commanded attention. She was taller than most of her people, her skin radiating a faint, pulsing light, changing from violet to green to gold in slow waves. Her face, angular and smooth, bore an expression of serene authority, but her eyes, bright and luminous, seemed to pierce through reality itself. When she moved, it was with the elegance of a dancer, yet every motion carried the weight of absolute control. The room's atmosphere shifted. Even the air seemed to tense, as if obeying her will. Rylan felt a strange vibration against his mind, almost like a whisper he could not fully hear. His training told him it was dangerous. He resisted the urge to step back, to bow, to do something to conform. Instead, he kept his posture steady, shoulders squared, feet firmly planted. The queen raised one hand, slender and radiant, and spoke. The one who does not bend shall determine the fate of the stars. Their minds, Rylan realized, were under scrutiny, subtly pulled by the psychic force of the queen's command. He felt it too, but he forced himself not to move, not to yield. It was the first time in his life he understood what true mental pressure meant, an invisible force that tested every fiber of his being. Rylan's mind screamed to obey. Survival instinct begged him to kneel, to fold, to show the respect expected of every visitor. But he didn't. He had trained his body and mind to endure stress beyond ordinary limits, yet this was unlike any simulation, any combat scenario he had faced. He could feel his heartbeat pounding, but he forced his chest to stay still. He let his breath flow evenly, measured, controlled. He let the silence fill the space between him and the queen. And then he noticed something he had not anticipated. The queen did not look angry. Her gaze did not pierce him with hatred or punishment. Instead, there was curiosity. A subtle tilt of her head, a soft shift in the glow of her skin, as if she were analyzing him, testing the essence of his being. For the first time, Rylan sensed that his defiance was not merely tolerated, it was noted. The nobles murmured among themselves, whispers low and cautious, their own psychic connections vibrating with shock and awe. How? One seemed to think. No human has ever resisted the queen's sentence. He did not understand fully why, but something in him resonated with the queen's power. Humans were not supposed to have this sensitivity, yet his mind responded differently. The psychic pull was not something to break him. It was something he could perceive, interpret, and even manipulate with his focus. He didn't yet know the extent, but he felt it, a small, quiet awareness that he could survive this and maybe even learn from it. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the queen lowered her hand. The silence lingered, but it was no longer oppressive. It was expectant, like a held breath waiting to be released. Then, without speaking another word, she gestured for him to follow her toward a side chamber. Rylan obeyed, not because of fear, but because he understood instinctively that this was an invitation. The chamber was smaller, more intimate, though no less grand. Light shimmered along the walls in flowing patterns, creating an ever-shifting tapestry of color. The queen turned to face him fully, her expression unreadable, her eyes studying him as though she were peeling back layers of reality itself. "You are unusual," she said, her voice smooth, resonant, and carrying an echo that seemed to vibrate in his chest. "Most humans would crumble under even a fraction of this pressure, yet you did not bend." "Why?" It was faint, but there was approval there, something alien and fleetingly human at the same time. "You are bold," she said, voice softer now. "Bold and perhaps wise, that combination is rare in this galaxy." Alien societies like the Zalarian Empire valued strength, cunning, and psychic sensitivity, and any misstep now could undo him completely. The queen extended her hand, not in threat but in an offer of guidance. "Come, you will learn much in the days ahead. The galaxy is shifting, and humans may yet surprise us all." He noticed the small details, the faint hum of energy along the walls, the way the queen's glow responded to his movements, the subtle tension in her psychic presence. Each detail was a lesson, a clue, a test, and he intended to pass it. As they moved deeper into the palace, Rylan thought about the hall behind him. The memory of every noble frozen in awe, the echo of that one sentence, lingered like a pulse. He understood now that this was not just about protocol or diplomacy. It was about survival, about showing the galaxy what humans were truly capable of. For a long moment, he allowed himself to imagine the possibilities. Humans had been underestimated for centuries, yet here in the heart of an alien empire, one man's stillness had spoken louder than 1,000 words. The queen had seen it, and perhaps, just perhaps, the galaxy would too. Rylan Hayes did not yet know the trials ahead, the dangers, or the enemies that waited beyond the palace walls. But one thing was clear. In a universe that valued obedience, he had found power in defiance. And for the first time in his life, he understood that power was not in bending. It was in standing firm when everything around him demanded otherwise. He followed the queen into the inner chamber, and as the door closed behind him, the hall outside remained silent. Not a whisper, not a murmur, not even the faintest shuffle of feet. And in that silence, Rylan felt the weight of the galaxy pressing against him, and for the first time he welcomed it, because he was ready. The inner chamber was unlike anything Rylan had imagined. The walls shimmered with a fluid light, casting shifting patterns that danced across the floor like living energy. It was quiet, but not the quiet of emptiness. It was alive, almost breathing, as if the room itself was aware of his presence. The queen motioned for him to sit on a low, smooth platform that seemed to float slightly above the ground. She remained standing, radiating calm authority, her glow pulsing softly with every breath. "You have survived the first test," she said. "Most humans would have bowed, shivered, or broken, yet you stood still. That is unusual, but still it is only the beginning." The queen's eyes glimmered and the air seemed to hum with power. "The next test is not of the body, it is of the mind." He didn't know exactly what it would involve, but instinct told him it would probe the deepest parts of his psyche. "Close your eyes," the queen instructed. "Do not resist what comes, but do not surrender either. Observe, endure, learn." Shapes moved in and out of the shadows, twisting and shifting in impossible geometries. He felt his mind tugged, pulled, and prodded by a force he could neither touch nor fully comprehend. Images of his past flashed in front of him. His childhood in the human colonies, battles on distant planets, the faces of those he had lost. They were vivid, so real he could almost smell the air of his homeworld, hear the echoes of gunfire, feel the sting of old injuries. A voice, soft, distant, yet unmistakable, whispered in a language he did not know. It wove itself into his thoughts, tugging at memories, twisting them. The queen's power was probing him, testing his reactions. Most humans would have screamed, frozen, or fallen unconscious. Rylan clenched his jaw and focused. He allowed himself to feel the images and the whispers, but he did not let them dominate him. He observed them as a scientist observes an experiment, analyzing, understanding, controlling his reactions. Then the illusions shifted. The floor beneath him became liquid, stretching and flowing as if it were alive. Tentacles of shadow reached for him, shapes of creatures that could not exist in reality but felt utterly real. Rylan's instincts screamed to flee, to fight, to resist, but he held still. He remembered something his trainer once told him: fear is information. Use it, but do not let it use you. He let the fear flow through him, acknowledging it without letting it control him. Slowly he realized that the shapes reacted not just to his fear, but to his confidence, his calm, his willingness to endure. Every moment he remained composed, the illusions faltered slightly, their forms bending, shrinking, losing certainty. The queen watched silently, her luminous eyes observing every flicker of his mind. "Few can endure this long," she said. "You do more than endure, you adapt. That is promising." Entire worlds burned, fleets of starships collided, alien species fell into chaos, and human colonies faced annihilation. Rylan could see countless timelines, possibilities branching endlessly, some horrifying, some hopeful. Each vision tugged at his emotions, forcing him to confront despair, loss, and impossible odds. He realized the queen was not merely testing him, she was preparing him. She wanted to see if a human could withstand not only psychic intrusion, but also the weight of responsibility, the pressure of knowing the future might be bleak, and yet acting anyway. Rylan felt exhaustion creeping into his mind, but he pushed back. He focused on what he could control, not what he could not. He let the visions flow past him, taking what lessons he could from them without being consumed by fear or doubt. Hours seemed to pass, though Rylan had no way of knowing. He lost track of time entirely. Finally, the visions stopped, leaving him in a quiet darkness that was almost peaceful. A single point of light appeared before him, growing brighter until it became the queen's glowing form. "You have done well," she said softly. "You endure, you adapt, and you observe. But endurance alone is not enough. You must act. Your mind is strong, but the galaxy requires more than strength. It requires cunning, strategy, and insight." He could sense his own mind more clearly, more acutely, and he knew that he had survived an experience that would have destroyed most humans. "You have a rare gift," the queen continued. "Humans are often underestimated. They are strong, adaptable, unpredictable. Most species rely on conformity, on obedience, on predictable patterns. Humans, they learn, improvise, and survive against impossible odds." This was his opportunity to show what humans were truly capable of. The queen gestured for him to stand. "You will not leave this chamber without a task," she said. "A challenge awaits beyond these walls, one that will require every skill you possess. You will not succeed alone. You will need to rely on your instincts, your courage, and your humanity." "I understand," he said. "Tell me what I must do." "The galaxy rewards intelligence, courage, and adaptability." They bowed slightly, acknowledging his presence, though there was a tension in their stances, as if they were unsure whether to treat him as a guest or a potential rival. "These will be your companions," the queen said, her voice echoing softly. "Each of them has faced trials you cannot yet imagine. They will test you, guide you, and if you are wise, teach you. Do not underestimate them, and do not assume your humanity alone will see you through." Yet another appeared small and delicate, almost fragile, but the subtle hum of energy around her betrayed an inner power that was anything but weak. He realized immediately that each of them represented a different aspect of the Zalarian species: intellect, strength, subtlety, and psychic mastery. Together, they would form a team, but he knew that harmony would not come easily. Differences in perspective, culture, and instinct would challenge him at every turn. "You will train with them," the queen said, her voice firm. "Learn their ways, teach them yours. Humanity has lessons to share and lessons to learn. The galaxy is changing, and your actions will ripple across stars." He felt a mixture of excitement and caution. The stakes were higher than anything he had faced. Yet for the first time, he also felt something else, a quiet pride. Humans were often underestimated, overlooked, dismissed. But here, in the heart of an alien empire, one human had survived where most would have failed. One human had stood still when the galaxy expected him to bend. And now he would continue to stand, to learn, to grow, and to prove that humanity was not to be underestimated. The queen turned back toward the shimmering walls, her glow pulsing gently. "Remember," she said over her shoulder, "the galaxy watches. It is not enough to endure. You must act, think, and lead. Humans, you may yet surprise us all." And he understood clearly and completely that his challenge was no longer just personal. It was a reflection of the potential of his entire species. When he finally stepped forward to meet the Zalarian companions who would join him, he felt a surge of resolve. He would endure, he would adapt, and he would act. Whatever tests, whatever battles, whatever trials lay ahead, he would face them as a human, and as a human he would not fail, because humanity had survived against impossible odds before. And now, in the quiet hum of the Queen's chamber, it would survive again. The sun had not yet risen on the Zalarian capital when the first warning arrived. A pulse of energy swept through the palace, subtle at first, then growing in intensity. The queen was already aware of it, her luminous eyes flicking toward the display before her. Rylan, standing nearby with the Zalarian companions, felt a shiver run through the floor. a vibration that seemed to echo not just through metal and stone, but through the air itself. "The rogue fleet," said one of the companions, a tall, thin Zalarian named Lariath, her voice calm but urgent. "They have moved faster than predicted. They are no longer at the edge of our systems. They are at the gates." But now they were real, massive, and closing in with terrifying speed. Unlike normal fleets, this one moved with near-perfect coordination. Each ship was a part of a larger mind, a hive of intelligence that reacted instantly to every action the Zalarian defenses took. The Queen's glow shifted, deepening in color. She turned to Rylan. "This is the moment I warned you about. The galaxy is on the brink of chaos. Humans, we are about to see what you are truly capable of. Too many will only make the enemy adapt faster. You will need precision, strategy, and creativity." Lariath, with her intelligence and ability to manipulate energy fields. Bronthar, a broad and muscular warrior whose power could crush starships if applied correctly. And Celira, delicate in appearance but possessing unmatched psychic insight. Together, they formed a team capable of facing impossible odds, but coordination and trust would be crucial. The Queen gestured toward a star map that floated in midair. Thousands of ships, dark and jagged, were converging on the Zalarian system. "Their flagship," she said, pointing to a massive vessel at the center of the formation, "contains the hive mind that coordinates the fleet. Destroy it and the rest may collapse. Fail and our worlds will burn. Humans, your adaptability may be the key to success." Humans had always excelled in situations where others relied on predictability. Flexibility, ingenuity, and audacity had saved countless worlds. This would be no different. He turned to his team. "We're not going in to fight them head-on. That's suicide. We'll hit the flagship directly, cut the head of the snake, and let the rest collapse. It won't be easy, but we can do it if we work together. That may give us an edge." The strike team boarded their ships, sleek and built for speed, equipped with advanced Zalarian technology that amplified human ingenuity. Rylan took the lead, his hands steady on the controls. As they accelerated into space, the rogue fleet came into full view. The sight was terrifying, jagged ships moving in perfect harmony, the black void of space lit by the glow of their engines and weapons. The first wave of attack began almost immediately. Drone ships launched ahead, probing the strike team's movements. Rylan guided their vessels in precise maneuvers, weaving through the swarm with a mixture of speed and unpredictability. Lariath manipulated energy fields around them, creating temporary shields that deflected attacks. Bronthar's ship emitted bursts of concentrated force, smashing drones and clearing paths. Celira projected subtle psychic illusions, confusing the enemy's sensors. Despite the chaos, Rylan noticed something remarkable. The hive mind was not invincible. It reacted, yes, but it could not fully anticipate human improvisation. Every unpredictable maneuver created openings. Every bold choice disrupted the enemy's pattern. Humanity's greatest weapon, he realized, was not technology. It was the ability to think differently, to act where others expected obedience and routine. As they approached the flagship, the true danger revealed itself. The vessel was massive, a fortress of steel and energy, bristling with weapons and defensive fields. The hive mind's psychic influence extended outward, pressing against Rylan's mind, testing him as the Queen had, probing for weakness. Painful images and doubts tried to overwhelm him, but he blocked them, focusing on the mission. "We need a plan," Rylan said quickly, speaking over the comms. "We can't just ram it. We have to get inside, disable the control systems, and hit the hive mind directly. Lariath, can you generate a field that will mask our approach? Then we make those seconds count." Finally, they reached the flagship's outer hull. Rylan guided their ships through an opening in the armor, moving into the vessel's interior. Inside, the environment was chaotic. Corridors shifted unnaturally, lights flickered, and the hum of the hive mind pressed against their minds like a living weight. But Rylan remained steady, guiding his team with calm determination. They reached the central chamber, the heart of the flagship and the hive mind. A massive sphere of pulsating energy floated in the center, radiating intelligence and malice. The psychic presence was overwhelming, but Rylan's training and focus allowed him to remain grounded. "This is it," he said. "We disable it, and the rest of the fleet will collapse." They needed to exploit unpredictability. Rylan's hands moved quickly, adjusting controls, rerouting energy, and creating feedback loops. The hive mind reacted instantly, sending waves of psychic pressure to disrupt him. Images of failure and destruction assaulted his mind, but he forced himself to focus, using the chaos to find weak points. With a final surge of calculation and improvisation, Rylan triggered the feedback loops. The hive mind faltered, its psychic tendrils unraveling. The pulsating sphere shuddered violently before collapsing inward, releasing a shockwave that disabled the flagship systems. Outside, the rogue fleet went into disarray. Ships collided, weapons misfired, and formations collapsed. Humanity's small strike team had turned the tide. The impossible had been accomplished, not through sheer force, but through adaptability, courage, and intelligence. As the shockwave subsided, Rylan and his team floated in the empty chamber, catching their breath. Lyriath smiled faintly. "You humans, you do things we never expected. That is why you survive." This victory was significant, but the galaxy was vast, full of dangers that no single fleet or species could face alone. He felt a surge of pride, not personal pride, but pride in humanity. They had adapted, improvised, and survived where others might have failed. They had proven their worth. As the strike team returned to the Zalarian capital, the Queen awaited them. Her glow pulsed warmly, her eyes filled with a mixture of curiosity and approval. Rylan felt the weight of history pressing on him. Humanity had not only survived this test, they had succeeded spectacularly. The Queen's voice resonated across the chamber. "You have done what many thought impossible. Humans, you have shown that courage, ingenuity, and adaptability are forces that cannot be measured merely by numbers or technology. You have earned a place among us." Yet he knew this, no matter the odds, no matter the enemy, humanity would endure, because humans did not just survive. Humans adapted. Humans overcame. And now the galaxy would remember that fact. The Zalarian capital had never been so alive. Ships streaked across the sky in celebration, and the glow of energy fields lit the city in waves of soft light. Yet despite the jubilation, Rylan knew that the battle they had just won was only the beginning. The rogue fleet had been powerful, but fragments remained, scattered across nearby systems. Even now, new threats could emerge at any moment. The Queen watched from her throne as Rylan and his team entered the Great Hall. The nobles had gathered once more, though the atmosphere was tense. Humans had never been seen as equals here, and the sudden success of one human-led strike team had shifted the balance of opinion. Some Zalarians whispered in awe, others in doubt, and a few in fear. The idea that a human could make such a difference was unsettling to those who valued centuries of tradition. The Queen's eyes glowed as Rylan approached. "You have done well," she said, her voice echoing with calm authority. "But know this, victory alone does not secure the future. The galaxy is full of challenges that cannot be overcome by strength alone. Strategy, cunning, and foresight will be as important as courage and skill. The fleet we destroyed was just one of many threats. There are others waiting for an opportunity." Every move he made would now be analyzed, every decision watched. He had won a battle, but he had also stepped into a new kind of war, the political and strategic battles that determined the fate of entire civilizations. "You will now join a council of advisors," the Queen continued. "You will advise on matters of defense, strategy, and diplomacy. This council includes species from across the Empire, those who will support you and those who may oppose you. You must earn their respect as you have earned mine." Representatives from countless species occupied the seats, each radiating a unique form of energy or aura. Rylan felt a rush of apprehension. He was the only human present. The Queen took her place at the center, and the chamber fell silent. "We are gathered to discuss the current threats to the Empire," she began. "Rylan Hayes, a human, has proven that courage and ingenuity can alter the course of events. He will speak first. Our enemies are not just machines or fleets. They are minds, strategies, and civilizations that do not follow predictable patterns. We must act with flexibility, and we must trust those who can adapt." Rylan continued, "Humans have survived for centuries because we do not rely solely on numbers, power, or tradition. We survive because we adapt, because we take risks, and because we act when others hesitate. That same principle can guide our defenses if we are willing to embrace it. But humans are untested in matters of galactic strategy. One fleet does not prove capability. That is an advantage we should use. That is why you speak today. I act for survival, for my people, and for all who face threats to life and civilization. The success of this strike team shows that humans can work with others, adapt to strategy, and follow plans when necessary. Our motivations align with survival, because survival is universal. Others remained skeptical, but the discussion had shifted from doubt to cautious curiosity. Rylan realized that words alone would not be enough to win complete trust. Actions, strategy, and success in the field would speak louder than speeches. The Queen spoke again. "Your council will deliberate and plan defenses, but I warn you, the galaxy is not static. Threats will emerge where you least expect them. Decisions will carry weight, and mistakes can be fatal. Rylan Hayes, you have proven yourself in battle. Now you will prove yourself in strategy." Humanity had faced impossible odds before. Now they would face them again on a larger stage. The next days were a whirlwind of planning, debate, and observation. Rylan quickly learned that Zalarian politics were complex and nuanced. Each species had its priorities, its fears, and its strategies. Some sought to expand influence, others sought stability. Rylan found himself listening, analyzing, and weaving their perspectives together. He suggested unconventional approaches, combining human ingenuity with Zalarian technology. Slowly, he began to earn respect, not just from the Queen, but from the council members themselves. One evening, after long hours of deliberation, Rylan returned to the private chamber where the Queen often met him. She was waiting, her glow softer now, but her presence still commanding. "You have done well," she said. "The council listens to you, and some have begun to follow your counsel. That is rare for a human. The galaxy is changing, and survival depends on cooperation." Ships moved like threads of light, patrols keeping watch over systems that were still vulnerable. "We've bought time," he said, "but the galaxy will not remain quiet. There are more fleets, more enemies, more threats waiting. We have to prepare for the next challenge. But remember this, you are no longer just a soldier. You are a symbol, not just of humanity, but of what can be achieved when courage and intelligence meet. The galaxy will watch you, and what you do will echo far beyond this empire." But he had faced impossible odds before, and he knew that humans had a unique ability to endure, to adapt, and to overcome. He returned to his quarters that night, exhausted but focused. He thought of the rogue fleet of the Council and of the countless civilizations that might one day rely on his decisions. Humanity had survived against impossible odds before, and now their survival, and the survival of many others, depended on ingenuity, courage, and the ability to act when others hesitated. For the first time, Rylan understood the full weight of the Queen's words in the hall. "The one who does not bend shall determine the fate of the stars." He had stood still, and now he would act. Not just as a human soldier, but as a force capable of shaping the future of the galaxy itself. As he lay down to rest, he felt a quiet determination settle in his mind. The galaxy was vast, filled with danger and uncertainty. Yet he knew that humanity had one advantage no other species could claim: the ability to survive against impossible odds. And with that thought, he allowed himself a brief moment of peace, knowing that when the next challenge came, he would meet it head-on. The Queen had watched him, tested him, and now entrusted him with the future. And Rylan Hayes, human among aliens, would not disappoint. The calm of the Zalarian capital was fragile. Even as the city celebrated the success of the strike team, Rylan knew the galaxy was far from safe. The rogue fleet had been only a warning. Other factions, other threats had noticed the human-led strike, and their eyes now turned toward the Zalarian Empire with suspicion, fear, and opportunity. The Queen summoned Rylan to the throne room, her glow bright and steady. "The galaxy watches," she said. "Your actions have inspired some, alarmed others, and unsettled many more. Now a new threat approaches, a coalition of fleets, united under a single command, seeking to exploit the chaos your previous mission revealed. They believe they can crush the Zalarians before your influence grows further. Humans, you will lead the defense." He had faced impossible odds before, and he knew that human ingenuity, adaptability, and courage could turn despair into victory. "You will not face them alone," the Queen continued. "You have your strike team, and you will have access to the Empire's forces. But know this, the enemy is cunning, unpredictable, and relentless. Strategy alone will not win this battle. You must inspire, adapt, and act decisively." Every scenario was simulated, every weakness noted, yet he knew that simulations could never capture the full unpredictability of battle. The key would be adaptability, the ability to act when events diverged from expectation. The strike team worked closely with the fleet commanders. Lyriath manipulated energy shields, diverting power to critical areas. Bronthar trained assault squads in rapid, decisive boarding actions. Celera projected subtle psychic interference to confuse enemy sensors. And Rylan, at the center, coordinated, improvising, and adapting at a pace no simulation could replicate. The day of battle arrived. The Coalition fleet appeared on the edge of the system, stretching across the void like a dark wall. Millions of ships moved in perfect coordination, their weapons glowing with lethal energy. Rylan took a deep breath. The hive mind of the rogue fleet had been difficult, but this was an entirely different scale, yet he felt calm. He knew humanity had something the Coalition did not anticipate: unpredictability, ingenuity, and courage that refused to be measured. "Remember," Rylan said to his team over comms, "we fight smart, we fight fast, and we fight together. The Coalition expects order and predictability. We will give them chaos instead." Fleets collided in a dazzling display of energy and destruction. Ships fired beams of light that carved through voids, missiles streaked across the darkness, and the hum of engines filled the space with vibrations that pressed against Rylan's chest. The Coalition was powerful, coordinated, and relentless, but they could not anticipate the humans' unpredictability. Rylan led his strike teams through narrow channels between massive enemy vessels. He directed boarding parties that disabled critical systems, rerouted energy flows to confuse sensors, and used decoys to lure enemy ships into ambushes. Every action was calculated, yet flexible, able to shift instantly as the enemy adapted. In the center of the Coalition's formation floated their flagship, massive and heavily fortified. Rylan knew that to truly win, they needed to strike at the heart. He gathered his team and prepared for a direct assault, understanding that success or failure would hinge on timing, coordination, and courage. As they approached, the flagship unleashed a psychic wave designed to break the will of intruders. Rylan felt his mind pulled, images of failure and loss flashing before him. He clenched his jaw, forcing himself to focus. He was not just a soldier, he was a symbol of humanity's resilience. Fear and doubt could not control him. With a sudden maneuver, the strike team entered the flagship's interior. The corridors shifted, the air thrummed with energy, and the presence of the enemy's command mind pressed against them like a tangible weight. Yet Rylan moved with precision, guiding his team past defenses, improvising when necessary, exploiting the gaps in the enemy's calculations. They reached the core chamber, where the command mind pulsed with energy, projecting images of destruction and control. The enemy attempted to overwhelm them with psychic force, but Rylan had learned to endure such pressure during his tests with the Queen. He focused, analyzed, and acted. Using a combination of human intuition and Zalarian technology, he triggered a feedback loop that destabilized the core. Energy exploded in waves, and the flagship shuddered violently. Outside, the Coalition fleet began to falter. Ships collided, formations broke, and confusion spread. The human-led strategy had turned the tide. What seemed impossible became possible. Humans had altered the course of the galaxy once more. Even in the chaos, Rylan remained calm. He coordinated retreats and advances, ensured civilian vessels were safe, and maintained the cohesion of his team. Every move demonstrated the adaptability, ingenuity, and courage that defined humanity. As the flagship collapsed, sending shockwaves through the surrounding fleet, Rylan and his team emerged victorious. The remaining Coalition ships scattered, unable to recover from the sudden collapse of their command. The galaxy had been saved not by sheer numbers or raw power, but by strategy, courage, and human ingenuity. When the battle ended, the Queen appeared aboard the capital's observation platform. Her glow pulsed with pride. "You have done what few could imagine," she said. "Humans are not just survivors. You are leaders, innovators, and warriors. You have earned a place among the stars. Humans alone are adaptable, but together with allies, we are unstoppable. Humanity has shown what can be achieved through courage, intelligence, and the refusal to bend under pressure." The council gathered afterward, and for the first time, humans were treated not as outsiders, but as equals. Some Zalarians still watched with caution, but the respect earned through deeds could not be denied. Rylan understood that this was the start of something larger, a new era of collaboration, recognition, and influence for humanity among the stars. In the following days, Rylan walked through the capital, observing the celebrations and the quiet moments of reflection. Ships patrolled the skies, systems stabilized, and messages of gratitude reached distant worlds. He thought about the Queen's words, about the tests he had endured, and about the battles that had shaped his journey. One human had stood still when the hall fell silent. One human had refused to bend, and through that stillness the course of history had shifted. He returned to the Queen's chamber one final time. "What happens now?" he asked. The Queen's glow pulsed gently. "Now you continue. You act as humans always have, adaptable, courageous, and unyielding. You will face new challenges, yes. The galaxy will not remain peaceful forever. But you and your people have proven that humans do not just survive. Humans thrive where others fail. That is the lesson the galaxy must learn. Wherever the galaxy demanded action, humans would respond. Wherever others hesitated, humans would act." The Queen rose, her radiance filling the room. "Go now, Rylan Hayes. Your story and the story of your people will be remembered across the stars. You have not only fought battles, you have inspired the galaxy. That is humanity's greatest gift." "I will honor it," he said. "And humanity will continue to prove that courage and ingenuity are forces no one can ignore." Rylan gazed at the distant lights, feeling the weight of responsibility and the thrill of opportunity. Humanity had survived impossible odds before, and now, among the stars, they would thrive. The hall had fallen silent once, and he had been the only one who did not move. That moment had been small, almost insignificant, but it had changed everything. The silence had become a turning point, a test, and a declaration. And now the galaxy would never forget that a human had stood firm when the universe expected obedience. Rylan Hayes turned toward the fleet, toward the council, and toward the future. He was a soldier, a leader, and a symbol of humanity's potential. And humanity, as he knew, would not bend. It would rise, adapt, and endure, shining brightly against the vast darkness of the galaxy. The stars awaited. Humanity was ready.